I'm Evan Anderson. I'm a software engineer at Google working on Google's serverless product. But this talk is going to be half serverless and half conversational interactions with Google. And this is a 300-level talk. So in the second half, you'll get to see a bit of the development process and tools for actually building some of the demos and stuff that you'll see earlier. And as you can see, the title is, OK, Google, ask serverless.
Google Home isn't set up yet. To get started, download the Google Home app on a phone or
Google
tablet.
Home, I didn't ask for you yet. OK, I think you may be in the corner, and we'll be using our phones. This talk is called OK, Google, ask serverless to sell my product. And we'll be talking about building conversational interfaces for Google Assistant. And I don't know how many of you have been using this already in the conference. If you want to queue up questions in the Dory Q&A, I will check them at the end. If you want to just use the live mics, we have a couple of live mics, and those will work just as well. So it's there. You can use it. You can see in the app where to find it to put in the questions and vote for stuff. So far, no one had questions, so feel free to just go to the mics if you prefer. And to start with, we're going to lay out the basic architecture, which, as you can see, you get one of these little Google devices, one like this, or one that's a little harder to throw. And then that talks to the Google Assistant in the cloud and is able to fulfill all of your conversational requests using Google's AI and back-end fulfillment. You can integrate directly with the Google Assistant, but it's a lot easier if you use a service like Dialogflow that already has built-in natural language processing tools. So it can understand voice and text. And then all you need to do is handle the recognized text and the conversational pieces that are specific to your application. That works for both the voice interfaces and for text interface on your phone, which you may have used before. And there's a third-party plugin from Dialogflow to call cloud functions or your own webhook on-prem or wherever it makes the most sense. And now I'd like to invite John Kniffen of Discount Tire up on stage to talk about the conversational experience that they're building at Discount Tire.
Thanks, Evan. I'm John with Discount Tire. If you're one of our customers here in Northern California, you might know us as America's Tire. Same company, same experience. So I work with a group that focuses on customer experience and delivering new things to help that out. We have a problem statement there you can read. We want to make sure we're delivering a consistent experience that helps meet our customers' future needs. One of the big items that we focus on here is taking some of our unplanned purchase customers and turning them into planned purchase customers. So I'm sure some of you have gone to a shop or a tire store for service, maybe your regular maintenance, and then the dreaded guy comes up out of the back and says, oh, by the way, you need new windshield wipers and blinker fluid and all of the other things, and it's going to cost you half a mortgage payment, and you weren't planning on it. Same thing can happen with us. Customers will come in for the regular maintenance, and then we tell the story based on different conditions that you need new tires when they weren't expecting it. One of the gaps here is the way we stay in touch with our customers and allow them to stay in touch with us. So we want to make sure we close as many gaps as we can, including this one. So we've got some things. You can see some of the screenshots there. We've got some tire recommendation tools that we're rolling out to make it easier to pick the right tire, know which one is going to fit your needs the best. But we want to make sure that customers can contact us the way they want. One of those methods is going to be through conversation, via voice or chat, or any of the new things that come along. So we'll demo a little later and show you where we've started with conversation and just scheduling an appointment. But the vision is to move forward and move beyond that, to be able to recommend products, services, anything additional via any avenue, including voice and chat, that the customer wants to do business with us. And that just helps ease some of that. Buying tires is not fun. We know that. None of you enjoy it. It's okay. We try and make it as painless as we possibly can. So now Becky is going to come up and talk a little bit about what we've done so far.
Thanks, John. I'm Becky Hsu with Capgemini Consulting. For those of you who haven't heard of us in the past, Capgemini Consulting is a global consulting firm. We partner with companies like Google. We also have an innovation lab. We partner with MIT as well as the University of Chicago so that we can be on the forefront of what's going on with trends within technology. We work with our clients to make sure that we can solve business problems and strategies through the use of IT. So I'm here to talk to you about conversational commerce. I'm not the 300-level course part of this. This is more, what's your application? Where did it come from? So if we look at conversational commerce in general, it has been adapted faster than any other technology that has been known to date. So faster than the tablet, 286% year over year is what the adoption rate was for cell phones. But as you can see on here, conversational commerce has been adapted at 653% year over year in the last 5 years. So just out of curiosity, by show of hands, how many of you currently have some kind of a smart speaker device in your home? Okay, and hold your hands up a little bit longer. Sorry, I know, exercise day. How many of you have had that for longer than a year? Leave your hands up. And if you've had it longer than 2 years, longer than 3 years? Like 1 or 2 people. So you can see how quickly it has been adapted just in the last few years. As you can see here, statistics show that we have 120 million smart speakers in people's homes in the US alone, which is pretty amazing because there are 127 million households. So if you think about that, that's a lot of devices, which doesn't mean that we should go out and get into the smart speaker device business, but it's really the utilization of those. So if we look at how trends have gone in the last few years, and we go back a little bit, it's hard to fathom sometimes just where it's going. Where is conversational commerce going? You hear a lot of people say, well, I've got my Google Home and it does my kids' homework, or it tells me the news in the morning, it plays music, but really it's not going to do anything more for me. However, if we think about the way trends have gone in the past, just by a quick scan of our group here today, most of you probably have never had a television in your home without a remote control. You couldn't really think about getting up off the couch right now and changing that channel. And that's exactly what people said when remote controls first came out. Why would I have to have this thing when I can just get up and change a knob? Well, most of us would never even think about turning a knob anymore. In fact, most of us, or a lot of us, now use the little microphone on our remote control. So you can see how things suddenly become adapted and part of our life. Same thing with cell phones. When cell phones first came out, we had a PDA, a Palm Pilot, which kept all of our contacts and our pictures. And people said, you know, I can't imagine having a phone and my contact and calendar device in one thing. And I have to talk, then I have to look, I'd have to talk. It seems ridiculous. Well, now I don't think any of us would really consider having 2 separate devices for something like that. Same holds true for conversational commerce in people's homes. You're seeing more and more people take their Google Home device or other device and connect it to their lights, to their furnace systems, their AC systems, their garage doors, what have you. So it's starting to move forward that way. As a result, what we're seeing is our clients are really trying to capture that and work with their clients so that they can get to know who their end clients are. This is important because, as you can see, people are starting to order things from their devices. The other thing that's interesting is that devices that have been developed have sort of a personality, if you will, based on how they were developed to begin with. The Google Home device, you know, Google itself was developed on a platform that was a search engine. So what you see is that there's a lot that you can leverage when you're developing on a Google Home platform. There's a wealth of data out there, location services, et cetera, as well as the APIs that you can leverage from Google, which make it very easy to then bring this into people's homes. What we're seeing in terms of trends is that not only are people starting to develop and adapt to digital and conversational commerce, but what we're seeing is that eventually we'll have what we call a digital twin. That digital device will know you so well, it will know your moods, your birthdays, your kids' birthdays. And it will soon replace what used to be sort of the shopkeeper down the street. Long ago, a shopkeeper down the street knew you by name. They knew when you came in to buy, your bread, your wine, whatever it was, if you had a bad day. They knew if you celebrated Hanukkah, Diwali, or Christmas, or whatever it was that you celebrated, so that then they would prepare their products accordingly. Same holds true with conversational commerce. What we're seeing is that it's becoming a part of people's lives so much that it will eventually develop a digital twin for you so that it will automatically take care of things for you that you may not have expected it to in the past. So that's what we're seeing from a personal perspective. What we're seeing from an industry perspective is that companies are going to start shifting not just to providing services and information to their consumer on the front end, but leveraging conversational commerce on the back end so that they can reduce costs in supply chain, manufacturing, training, and things like that in conjunction with the AI and the IoT that they can couple with that. So these are some of the trends that we're seeing going forward. As I mentioned, and what John will show you in just a moment, is that we partner with our clients to solve for various solutions that they're looking for. In this case, we've developed an application which just heads up, this is in our beta, so it's in one store. So if those of you are Discount Tire customers, we're first rolling it out to the Arizona store so that we can make sure that the bot is trained, because most of you know you have to train that bot so that it becomes proficient in various types of callouts and sequences. Because we're leveraging Google's backend, we were able to then leverage the location services, the maps, the APIs, or the APIs that exist, and pull that in from Discount Tire's APIs, and also then connect it to their appointment and calendaring system that exists in their store. So what you'll see is that we're able to then make that call out in the Google device that goes through the cloud, of course, connects through into the gateway via the API gateway into Discount Tire's store, and then it sets the appointment not only in your Google Calendar, but also at the store. So I'm going to ask John to come up here and show that to you, and I want to thank you for your time.
All right, we had a fight with the speaker, so we're going to do the demo on my phone. Hopefully everybody can hear it okay. Talk to Discount Tire.
Okay, getting Discount Tire.
Hi there. To get to know you better, I'll just need to get your name, email address, and current location from Google. Is that okay?
Sure.
Hi, John. Welcome to Discount Tire. Right now, this test version only works for the Scottsdale area, and you seem to be located in San Francisco, California, USA. Would you like to continue?
Yes.
We are currently test driving this only at our Scottsdale location, at the corner of Shea and North Scottsdale. Would you like to schedule an appointment at this location?
Yep.
What do you need an appointment for? You can also ask me to list services offered.
New tires.
Okay, you want to get new tires. Is that right?
Yeah.
We have openings on Thursday the 11th of April, Friday the 12th of April, and Saturday the 13th of April. Which day would you like to come in?
Saturday.
Would you like your appointment for the morning, early afternoon, or late afternoon?
Morning.
For the morning of the 13th of April, we are available at 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m., and 9:30 a.m. Tell me which one of those will work for you, or you can ask me for more available times.
9.
Do you want me to confirm your appointment for the 13th of April at 9 a.m.?
Yes.
Great. We have you scheduled at 9 a.m. on the 13th of April for new tires, wheels consultation appointment at 7075 East Shea Boulevard in Scottsdale, on the corner of Shea and North Scottsdale Road. An appointment confirmation has been sent to your email address. See you soon.
So pretty basic and simple, but it's a good way to start. And that's nice about working with Google and partners like Capgemini is that we can do some of these small things to build momentum. And she said it was in beta, so you can't get it. It's actually in production. So I did create an appointment for that store just now. I'm gonna have to call the manager and tell him not to get excited about the new tires he's not gonna sell, but he can take care of that part. So that was it. Evan?
Thanks. That was a great overview of both conversational commerce and where that's going, as well as some of the business value and how it's really going into production. And as well as Becky had a great slide about how to integrate these sorts of experiences into your existing infrastructure, because how many people are building their new enterprise stuff completely greenfield without needing to integrate with any existing databases? I see one hand in the back. Congratulations. You are the lucky one. But otherwise, building this as a facade in front with clear enterprise APIs is a great way to get into this and experiment and move quickly without destabilizing the rest of your infrastructure. So I'm a software engineer, as I said at the beginning. I like to see how stuff is built. And so we're going to start talking about how it's built and a little bit about why I think that serverless is the great place to do this. So, and at the end, I will point you to the GitHub repo where you can go and take a look and copy the code and look at all the stuff I did and ask me questions about why is your Python code so hastily written? And the answer is it's a demo. So to review the request flow, this is very similar to before. I talk to Google on my device. It calls the assistant. The assistant calls Dialogflow because this is not about training your own natural language model. There's lots of people who've done this before, and Google has a pretty good agent. And then at the end, I want to hook this up with some Python code because it's fast and easy to write. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. And it's kind of fun to get to see how far Python has gone since I wrote it seriously in production 5 or 10 years ago. This is a Google conference. We've got lots of places where you can run Python. Also lots of places where you can answer this stuff that's not Google. So all the way on the left, you've got on-premise. Maybe you've got an existing VM. All you need to do is set that up, image the disk, talk to your IT department about firewalls and network access so Google can call it. It doesn't sound quite so much fun. So Google Compute Engine, if you like having VMs and just pop out a credit card and you can get a VM, and when you're done with it, just throw it away. You still have to handle a lot of scaling and replication yourself and still need to deal with OSs and patches. Well, it's a little bit more agile, a little bit less infrastructure work because you can just show up one day and you don't have to procure and space plan. But let's keep going up the stack to more managed solutions. Kubernetes Engine is next. In Kubernetes Engine, Google manages the OS and a lot of the other components. And you simply tell Kubernetes, hey, this is the container I want to run. Please run 5 copies. Put a load balancer in front. If you've ever used Kubernetes before, you can declare all of this stuff in a YAML format. You'll spend a lot of time making friends with YAML. And you'll get to see how all the pieces fit together, which is great if you like fitting pieces together. We're still focused on, OK, I just want to get my code to run. So you'll see that we have the 3 compute serverless offerings up here. Cloud Functions is great for single HTTP endpoint requests, where you're only going to get one request at a time. App Engine is a full web application environment. So, for Python, I'm going to use Flask. For Node, you could use Express. You're going down a very well-trod path there. But if you want to just handle a single JSON request, there's going to be a little bit more overhead. Those first two are GA. If you're building something for production today, use the GA ones. The last one is new, something we're announcing at this conference, Cloud Run. It is a container-based serverless environment. So you can take a container that runs on your desktop, send it up into the cloud, and Google will scale it. Google will give you SSL, SSL on all three, by the way. That's not a Cloud Run exclusive feature. But you can use any language you want. The first two are language specific. So there are 4 languages, I think, supported for Cloud Functions, about 6 languages and 2 or 3 versions of each language on App Engine. But I see Mike Helmick here, if you want to write it in Elixir, then you're going to build your own container and do the last thing. If you want to do Rust or something like that, again, the last one. And I want to point out, if you've got simple needs, Dialogflow actually is a managed service where you can do all of your programming in Dialogflow as long as you don't need to do something complicated like access that database. So we can't use the fully managed product because we've got a database that we want to do. We've got existing enterprise things. And we already talked about why you want to go as far up the management stack as possible. So serverless is a great place to do these sorts of simple webhooks. I'm actually going to use both Cloud Functions and App Engine in this talk because I wanted to use the GA products and show you what I would recommend for building things today. With Cloud Run, I could have put this all in a single container, which has some nice advantages in terms of managing modules and things like that. So serverless, other people have said this, it's like a high-level language for cloud. If you, some of you have probably been from BASIC or C up to object-oriented languages, where you can get a lot of encapsulation and remove a lot of duplication from your code. And serverless is the same sort of thing. You get a lot of stuff for free. You get scaling and pay-per-use, and that includes scale down to 0. So when you're not using it, you pay nothing, which is great for development environments because probably if I were paying for this rather than having Google pay for it, it would have cost me somewhere between free and 25 cents to do all the development work. In terms of serving, obviously my hours are more than that. You also get a lot of stuff for free like SSL I mentioned earlier and network routing. So App Engine allows you to roll out versions incrementally. That functionality is coming for Cloud Run, and there's some similar things you can do with functions. It steers you towards a bunch of best practices that your IT department will love. Stateless applications are way easier to handle. You have a problem, you can roll back to the previous version. It's super fast. It will almost always solve your issue if the application was at fault. You don't have to worry about, oh, what about customers who are on the new version? You can just move them back. Similarly, we take care of OS patches, access control tools, and things like that. A bunch of other problems that you probably prefer not to have. And basically, it's just your code all the time. Now, there are some cases, not so much for Dialogflow, because Dialogflow is very carefully designed to let you be a stateless web app. But if you were integrating directly with Actions on Google, or you were building some other types of things, if you're keeping local storage, like a session cache or something like that, serverless is not the place to go. You need to put that in an external service because all of a sudden you have 5 instances and sessions are bouncing between them and people are forgetting that they're logged in and everybody's sad. And your individual instances aren't addressable. So if you're thinking of doing something fancy and complicated, you don't know how many instances you're going to have and you can't control where the requests go. So in this particular demo, I have the assistant hooked up to Dialogflow, and then using Cloud Functions to service that webhook because it's a single request. I also have a management interface that's on App Engine that's multiple pages, is a little web application where you can see all of your orders, and on a different page where the chefs can see what they need to make, because I'm making a application for ordering food, because goodness knows there's not enough ways to order food yet. And in the back end, everything is being stored in Cloud Firestore, which has a interesting functionality where if you're in Firestore mode, you can set a trigger on certain objects that will call a Cloud function every time they change. And so every time the order changes, I have a chance to view it and decide, is it time to send it off to external payment processing? Is there other work like going back and recomputing the total price of the order that I should do because, look, it just changed. And it's a cute way. This pattern with triggers and then going back to the same data store or Firestore is a cute way of building a little state machine where you don't need to separately use something like PubSub and your database and think carefully about how to manage the transactions between the two. And so all of these components, including the database, actually are serverless because Firestore will scale up to thousands of requests per second if you need it. And again, if you're storing very little or no data, it costs you nothing because it's in the free tier. You pay only for what you use. And so this is where I'm going to switch over and show you just a moment. Show you the simulator for actions on Google. So this is the way that you would actually go to develop your application. When you're in test mode, it has a nice user interface. You can also link it to your phone. You can see up here that there is an option for testing on device, and I have it enabled. So I can also try testing things with my phone. It turns a little faster for testing to just be able to type here, and it has nice suggestions. So I can say, talk to the demo shop, and it should get back to me after a moment. The other great thing is that you can see for debugging all of the requests that are getting sent and the responses that are coming back. So you can see my code said it's a great day for a demo. So let's see, what's on the menu? And we have 3 items. This is being pulled dynamically from the database. Again, I didn't really want to spend a lot of time coming up with cute data, so you can see that we have 3 dishes, and it's just fetching these. Let me make that bigger for you. And so it's going through these 3 dishes, and then you can say, I'd like to start an order, and it will go and actually, you can see up here that I have sandbox transactions, and if this was the first time I was using it, I would have to actually allow the app to access my payment information. And that actually has to be done on a device, not on the simulator. So there's a couple things that you can't do here. You can't actually place a payment through the simulator. But it's really helpful for debugging everything but the last stage. So can we switch back to the slides now? OK. So a little bit about how I've laid out data in Firestore. If you haven't used it, Firestore is a document database. So it holds collections of documents under different names. And an individual document can have further, can have further collections under it. So you can see under salads, we have a bunch of different choices, like what greens do you want, and do you want avocado for an extra charge? And we have a separate collection that is orders. And then inside each order, there's a dish is a list of what type it is, and then what items you've chosen to include, and the total price. And then there's a whole collection of orders. And we have Cloud Functions set up to listen on those orders, which is actually kind of fun when you're using the development viewer, because you can change values and you can see the live updates as your background function comes in and fixes things or adjusts them. And when I was writing code and I discovered I had bad values for some of the computed stuff, I could just go in and delete it. That caused the function to re-evaluate it and create the correct data. In terms of Dialogflow, can we switch back to the demo machine? I'm going to give you a lot of practice switching back and forth. So those of you who haven't used it before, Dialogflow has a bunch of, so this is the show me a menu, and you enter a variety of training phrases. And let's look at a more interesting item now. So the add intent lets you say, hey, I want to get a salad or something like that. And you give it a list of these entities that it might fill in. So salads and bowls and whatever. I was feeling healthy when I got started. Are all filled in, and you give it several different training phrases that it can learn where those foods might be. So this is great if you like having a UI to keep track of all this stuff, but for a more production environment, you may want to instead export this as a zip file. So if you go over here to export, you can export this as a zip file and then import it. And you can see here that here are the different things that the user might say. I want a salad. It's a dish. It's the dish entity, and it's defined by a user. Hey, can I get another thing? So having the UI is nice for creating these to begin with. But you can then actually download this and check it into source control, and then create a zip file and restore it to load things back up. So if you're doing development in one place, doing it in production elsewhere, this is a great tool for seeing what's going on. Can we go back to the slides? I'm going to give you folks a workout on the video. So there's various different items that the webhook can return with. So one thing that they can do is just, hey, here's some more text. You can also say something like, hey, I want this person to start a transaction or complete a transaction. So starting a transaction says, please make sure that they've got all their payment information and they're willing to share it with you. Completing the transaction gives them actually, this is what your total price is going to be. Do you want to pay it or not? And you can also set context information that will be carried along to the future. So when you say, I'd like to place an order, we actually, the demo creates an order in Firestore and then puts that into Dialogflow so that the next time you make a request, the next webhook knows what that is. And let's see, yes. So this is what the webhook looks like. So you get a single request, and it tells you which of those different intents it is, and each of those is basically a separate function. So in Node, there's a nice wrapper that lets you map these, just annotate these names being different functions. In Python, it's really easy to write a little wrapper that does the same thing. So that's what we have here is just a quick dispatch loop. And whenever you want to add a new function, you write the function and then just add it to handlers along with the mapping to those Dialogflow. And for local development and testing, you can use Flask and ngrok and get a much faster development cycle and get interactive debugging when you're getting things set up. So ngrok is one of several services that will run a endpoint on the web and then proxy it to your local machine if you're behind a firewall. So that was how I did a lot of the initial iteration. I'll also show you how I do it with Cloud Functions. Cloud Functions takes a little while, 30-ish seconds or so, most of the time for this Python app. So it's a little bit slower, but not terribly slow. But it's sometimes nice to have that instantaneous loop. And can we switch back to the demo machine? And I will show what this code looks like. And maybe we will see about, let's see, in main, let's see. We can, let's see. That's still a builder. So where we say we have so-and-so menu, items on the menu, we can instead change this to it's a surprise. And comment these others out so we don't have to ask as often. And then the deploy command looks something like this down at the bottom. Deploy the voice function, trigger it by HTTP. It's the Python 3.7 runtime. So that's pretty much the latest version of Python. And it'll take a moment or two to upload. And you can go over and is this still working? Can I get a salad? After about 20 minutes, it'll time out your interaction. So we will get started again. And there's some built-in chit-chat that Google ships with that gives you a few suggestions for stuff that you can leave on or not. There's one that's like, tell me a joke that you might or might not want. So this is still building. It says it might take up to 2 minutes. The other thing that you can do while this is going on is you can look at the existing logs, and you can see we just made this request. This is the welcome intent. This is all logging that I added. And here we're responding with some text that says it's a great day for a demo. And now it looks like we have updated the function. So let's see, what's on the menu? It has not updated yet. It's on the menu. It's a surprise. So it took a moment. But so that's sort of the iteration cycle when you're working in the cloud. Obviously, you can still work pretty fast. But if you have Flask reloading on local changes, it's it's almost instant, although it can be hard to read the logs. I actually find the log viewer to be easier to pick things out than when you just get a whole bunch of output. And so, yeah, this is. Yeah, and we're checking the user as well, because at one point we said hello to the person. So I could also, you'll see here there's a little bit of integration with Google Identity, so you can get the user's name and so forth if they've given you that permission. I set this up already, so it's there. Can you switch me back to the slides, please? Let's see. So we already talked about most of this. In a minute, I will probably walk through this back-end processing piece, but this is basically what it looks like. That validate method is where you put all your business logic for, oh, hey, is the price right? We should update it. Extract all the fields and so forth. The important thing to note is this last block at the bottom that says, if these two documents are different, then set them, otherwise don't. If you don't do that differencing part at the end and you just always do an unconditional set, it's serverless. It will scale. And you have created an infinite loop. So we can scale that pretty fast. Your bill scales with usage. So you may want to, if you're doing this pattern of writing back to the same document, you may want to put in a few safety checks that you're not going to overwhelm the database in a spin loop. So in my particular case, it made more sense to treat this as, let's check a condition, let's fix that condition, check the condition, fix the condition. But you could also have a field that was a state machine. So, order received, we've created your appointment, we've sent a follow-up email to ask you, what kind of car do you have? We've sent you a suggestion of tires. We've got the tires ordered, and now everything's ready to go. And then the last piece is a status web application. So it's great being able to place orders through a chat interface. Maybe you're in the car or something like that. But I also want to be able to see, hey, what are all the last orders that I had? And so voice isn't going to replace those sorts of interfaces. It's going to add to them. And some things will make more sense to do in a web UI. So if you can flip back to the demo machine again, you can see my beautiful web design skills. And this is a history of all of the orders that you've completed. And to show how a little bit of this reconciliation loop works, if we go over and look at the orders, I've done this with a couple different. So this is that last order in the list, and if I decide to change the value, I can do that, and over here it will tell me I paid. That's not. Are there two of these? Well, so my web skills are apparently really bad. I force reload, does that? It has cache $15, and I apparently don't know how to do cache busting. I'm a back-end engineer, so this was all fun for me. But the fun thing that you can do here is if you delete the price, for example, you will see it pop back up in just a moment, add it again. That's that background process recognizing, hey, there's not a total on here, I should go compute it. And the actual code looks pretty simple. If we don't have a total, just update it. If it's not done and we got a payment token from Stripe, this has a sleep because I didn't finish integrating with Stripe's API. But up the other pattern for this is if you have some data you don't want to check in, you can have a config, and this cuts off the right-hand side intentionally because I don't want you to see my full keys, but I can store some keys in here and then load them on every application request without needing to write that down in a config file that gets checked into Git. Instead, I project them on the screen for everybody. But they're cut off, as I said. But yes, here's an object in your database that stores all your config. Is really handy for development versus production environments. And Firestore is a really good place for this because it lets you have just sort of amorphous objects where you can add another key if you need to. So if I discovered, I needed an extra key, it can be a string, or I can even, have a JavaScript map and nest things. And so if you can switch them back to the slides. I put a debugging view on that's basically a view for the chef. It looks a lot like that other page, except that it has all the items in a little bit more detail, like which ingredients you should have. And you also get a lot of these debugging tools. So you saw the log viewer. Stackdriver also has a trace mechanism, so you can see why is my app slow. And frequency, latency. There's also request tracing through the system, so you can say, oh, hey, I called Firestore 8 times, it turns out, and that's why everything is slow, is because I should really consolidate that down to 2 database calls. And serverless gives you a lot of these batteries included, so there's only a small amount of work to integrate, whereas if you're running on a VM, you might have a much larger list of get the monitoring agent installed, figure out what credentials it needs, figure out which monitoring agent you're going to use. And so serverless has picked a lot of this stuff for you. And so this is a bunch of information, but before we get to the Q&A, would love to get your feedback on this session. You can complete the session survey in your app and leave notes. I get to see at least the summary information and any of those comments. So if we did something particularly great, or if you wish this session was about something completely different, that's your place to let me know.